associates Arturo Mejia and Emma Paulin. I'm so honored today to introduce Selena Preciado to kick off our spring 2021 season. Selena works at the Getty Foundation, where she oversees the Getty's Marrow undergraduate internships, a program that has supported multicultural undergraduates for close to 20 years. She is also an accomplished independent curator, having worked in the past at the Museums of Contemporary Art in both Los Angeles and San Diego, the Museum of Latin American Art in Long Beach, and the San Diego Museum of Art. She is a graduate of UCSD's Visual Arts program and holds an MA in Art and Curatorial Practice from USC. I so look forward to hearing Selena's talk today. We will have time to answer any and all questions at the end of the presentation, so please do not hesitate to write your comments in the Zoom chat room. Without further ado, I'll ask Selena to engage her camera, and I'll get out of the way for now. The screen is yours, Selena.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be in such great company, and I'd like to thank also Karen Rapp, Arturo Mejia, Emma Paulin, and of course Professor Damon Wellick for having me here today. And I will share my screen. And apologies for this sort of clunky exercise of sharing the screen. And thank you also for the introduction. I was mentioning that this exercise of putting together this presentation has been really interesting because I would like to take you sort of on a journey through my career path, which is a little bit of a hopscotch game, or like I don't know, a path that has had different ins and outs. And it's not a linear path. And what I tell everyone, especially the interns, is that in the arts, at least, I cannot speak for other careers or professions, but in the arts, there's no formula. And I've also experienced that in my own path. There's no correct way of doing things, or like a formula if you do A and B. Obviously there is a whole conversation about credentialism and degrees and going to school, and I can talk a little bit more about that too. But it's I have currently two hats. I'm wearing two hats, one working as a program assistant at the Getty Foundation, and the other one as an independent curator. And so I will try to, during this presentation, sort of explain, or hopefully it becomes evident, how these two come together. And as Professor Damon mentioned, I worked at the Getty Foundation, and I work mainly with two of our initiatives. One, Pacific Standard Time, which is an initiative that brings together many organizations across Southern California, and in different topics. The first one was back in 2011, and it was about art in LA from 1945 to 1980, so post-war, and over 60 organizations across Southern California, all the way to San Diego, to Palm Springs, Santa Barbara, participated with exhibitions that focused on art in Los Angeles. From that initiative and sort of wave of many research projects and exhibitions, a lot of artists that were sort of forgotten or marginalized historically came to light, and a lot of, especially when it comes to Latinx or Chicanx art history, a lot of research projects sort of ignited other projects. So I like to say that the second iteration of Pacific Standard Time, which was LALA, focused on Latin American Latino art in LA and Chicano art. I like to think that it came from all of those exhibitions that uncovered um, forgotten artists or artists that had not had the appropriate exposure, artists from LA. And so LALA, I started working at the foundation with LALA back in 2015. The exhibitions opened until 2017, but so we were still, I think, at the tail end of the research phase. The initiative has two parts. One is a research phase of 2 years of researching and putting together the projects, and then to the second phase, which is grant-based, is about the production of the exhibitions, catalogs, and ultimately the installation of the exhibitions. And I was brought into a team because of my expertise in Latin American art, due to my prior positions at the Museum of Latin American Art, and also at MOCA and institutions in San Diego and Mexico. And the new iteration of Pacific Standard Time will happen in 2024. The new wave of grants will be announced very soon, so we're very happy about that. So more details to come, and I can also answer questions at the end. So this is like one of the main initiatives that I work in, and then the Getty Merrow undergraduate internship program. I've been really privileged to work in different sort of parts of the program. The program is very complex. It has a history of 28 years. We're on the 29th year now, and is it right? Or we're on the 28th? No, I'm doubting myself. I'm sorry, but I started in 1993. So. And it was in response to the cultural climate back then after the LA riots, and our cultural organizations coming together, trying to offer some sort of I don't know, open a door for conversations about the cultural institutions themselves and about art, and also focusing on the idea that everyone is welcome in the arts, and the arts is by nature, or historically, I think, not by nature, it's an area, or like an area of study that has had an elitist history. And, I think until this day, we are fighting that. And back in the 90s, there was an effort to question that, challenge that, and open the doors with several types of opportunities and grants. And this particular initiative, it was meant for students. It was originally called the Multicultural Undergraduate Internship Program. And so it was meant for students of diverse backgrounds to learn about opportunities in the arts. So because of its many years of history now, it's sort of become like a pipeline program, and we're trying to figure out what does that mean, and what does it mean for the present and the future of the program. We have a very rich and large alumni group with many colleagues that are very accomplished, and we're very proud that they did their maybe like their first step through this internship. And sorry, I'm trying to advance the slide. So this is just a little bit of information about the program. I know that many of you will be interested in applying to this program right now. The application process, or the internships actually are sort of divided into two. There are about 20 positions at the Getty Center and Getty Villa as part of the internship, and then about, I want to say, 90 other positions that will open up in different institutions across Los Angeles County. And so in total, there's over 100 positions. They're all part of the same program. But the applications for the internships at the Getty open a little early. So the deadline to apply for the internships at the Getty is on February 1st. So it's coming up. And I'll try to drop my email in the chat box. Or maybe we can share it at the end in case you have questions related to the application and the application process. If you're interested in being part of the program but want to work elsewhere, the positions in the rest of the organizations supported by grants from the Getty Foundation open more or less in late March, early April, after we give the grants to the organizations, and then each organization will open up the call for those internships. So you would apply directly with the organizations. So you apply directly to the Getty for the internships at the Getty, and then directly to each organization for the rest of the internships. And ultimately, all the internships happen simultaneously or concurrently during the summer. They start at different dates in June, and there are 10 consecutive weeks of full-time work. This past summer was very challenging because we all had to adjust to this current situation of working from home, working remotely, and we learned a lot through this experience. And so for this cycle, we are sort of reverting back to the same timeline, but encouraging organizations to offer internships that are that allow remote work. So I encourage you to check out the website and the requirements for being a Getty Merrill intern, and also the full listing of the organizations that will offer positions will be announced and on the website maybe like late March. So please keep checking during the spring. And this is the other portion related to Pacific Standard Time. I've, as part of my role as a program assistant, I assist the program team, so the grants team. There's a grants administration team that sort of do like the behind the scenes, everything that has to do with technology, and also of like doing due diligence and being in doing things in accordance to the law and different things. But in the program team that I'm part of, there are different sort of sections or points of bifurcations of our initiatives. So we have initiatives that have to do with art conservation, some of them that have to do with academic art history, and also with museums. And I work in the ones that focus on museums. And I am really happy that I get to work with local organizations, because both of the initiatives that I work in with the internship program and with Pacific Standard Time have allowed me to work with local partners, local organizations. So I am sort of like the point of contact with all of the organizations, and as part of the team of the foundation. And also part of the role is not only administrating the grant, but also creating programming for different creating and also participating in programming for the different initiatives. So for example, for Pacific Standard Time, I got to write a couple of blog posts for the Getty Iris, which is the Getty blog, and assist our communications teams with different different responsibilities. And also when it came to when the exhibitions were open in 2017, I was one of the spokespeople, because I'm bilingual, so I was one of the people that would answer questions in Spanish for press in Spanish. And one of the things that I'm really lucky to have been part of, and I'm really proud also as well, is this project that is to your right, hopefully on your screen, which is a performance piece by Guatemalan artist Regina José Galindo. And that was commissioned to be presented at Sonamaco, which is the very important art fair in Mexico City. And this was as part of the uh, before the exhibitions opened in 2017, we did sort of like a tour, a press tour, and trying to announce the initiative in Latin America. So this was in Mexico City, and we commissioned this piece, and I was sort of like the production manager, and it was a very exciting moment. Because it was in a way like doing curatorial work while also being working on grants and this initiative. So it's a one part of like my history at the Getty that I really treasure, because I got to work with the artist and help her produce a piece from its inception to the time of the actual performance. So it was in her work. Her work has to do with different aspects of violence, so violence toward women or towards indigenous people. And it's also very much about the body and the violence towards the body. And she has a couple of pieces in her earlier work in which she puts herself in either inside a trash bag or in a situation that's where the CD picks up the trash, and then she's carried away as part of the garbage. Depending on the context, one time she did it in Guatemala, one time she did it in Mexico City, and before this performance. And it had different, each iteration of the performance has been contextualized with the time and the geography, but also the response, because it's sort of, they are durational pieces, but they're also somewhat interactive because they're public. The reactions have been very, very different depending on the context. So, for example, the one in Sonamaco, so you see the city workers picking her up, so she's already inside the bag, and then carrying her. And so when this photograph is taken from the audience, so when the audience was seeing that, a few minutes had passed, and if you search on YouTube, the complete video of the performance is there. I also have it here. We have time. We can see it at the end, but if not, I encourage you to watch it on YouTube. She was there a few minutes moving, so people knew that there was someone inside the bag. And in a different iteration, people actually have tried to help her and like take her out of the bag. And this time it was just more curiosity, and also because it was the context of the art fair, I think that people were just sort of waiting to see what would happen. And but when the truck took her, people were screaming and sort of like, don't take her, and like so it was like I'm like getting goosebumps. It was very powerful. And I got to be inside the garbage truck with the drivers, sort of recording, and like also making sure, sort of like production manager, making sure that everything would go smoothly. Also with the technology, because we had Facebook Live and different cameras recording outside, inside the truck, and also sort of following us when we left the fair. And so this was, I feel like it's one of the projects that I treasure the most from like very recent years, even though it's, well, from 4 years ago already. Um, so this is the clip, but we can go back to it. And then going back to my work as a curator, and I think that it I mentioned before, it's I sort of have like these two paths in my career currently. And and that's why I mentioned that the project with Regina was really important, because it's sort of like I was bringing like my curatorial uh, interest into my work at the foundation. So that's why it was so important to me. And I always try to insert a little bit of humor. And so these are just some examples of exhibitions. Some of them, actually, Professor Damon mentioned them when he introduced me. Some of these exhibitions are like highlights or exhibitions that I worked in. And I still consider myself emerging, because I'm still emerging in the field. But I had the opportunity, thanks to the mentorship of Cecilia Fardo-Hill and Idurre Alonso at the Museum of Latin American Art, to curate a couple of exhibitions. My first exhibition was a rotation of the permanent collection, but some of the works were loans from local or LA art galleries that were in conversation with MOLAA's collection. And so this is sort of like my first exhibition back in 2011. Before that, I was curatorial assistant, and at other institutions, I had been working either as part of the exhibitions team or the curatorial team as a curatorial assistant, or exhibitions assistant. So this first exhibition, I think it's important because it was about landscape, but also memory and place. It was the title is inspired by the two pieces that you see in white by Felix Gonzalez Torres. One says "Nowhere Better Than This Place," and the other one says "Somewhere Better Than This Place." So the title is "Anywhere Better Than This Place," and the idea was to explore landscape as a place of memory, to talk about the past, and also um, language in a way, because the pieces are conceptual art pieces, the Felix Gonzalez Torres one, and they're about language as well, but also as a place, and imagining place that exists currently, or will exist, or have never existed. And also through the use of language, how language is sort of like a metaphorical place as well. So here there are just examples. The piece on the left is by Chilean artist Mario Paso. It's in the collection of MOLAA. It's called Territorio Fugitivo, Fugitive Territory. And it is about how landscape can be political as well, and landscape is a sort of resists as well, and or it's a place of resistance. And the piece below by Amelia Pica, that was alone. And Amelia Pica is an Argentinian artist residing in London. But this work, it's called in the Mayans journey, and it's about this book that was sent in a voyage to the Sahara. And the writer, the author, John Keats, asked the voyager to put the book in the heart of the Sahara. And the explorer, his name's Joseph Ritchie, the explorer also disappeared, so he never made it back of that journey. So the book is in the heart of the Sahara, and the explorer is as well. But it sort of touches on this idea of place, memory, and also metaphor. So I'll go a little bit faster so we have enough time. So this is another exhibition that I co-curated in collaboration with my cohort of my MA program at USC. It was called In Search of an Exit, or Eight Characters in a Parlor, inspired by not only the Jean-Paul Sartre's play No Exit, but also I'm sorry, I'm blanking out, Luis Buñuel's the oh my gosh, I'm blanking out. I'm really sorry. The Exterminating Angel, sorry. And it is very interesting how this was conceived, back in 2014, 2015. And when I was looking at it these past few days, when I was putting together the presentation, I was just sort of like in awe about how like all of the exhibition itself, which was about the human condition and situations where people find themselves negotiating the space they're in somehow, or isolated from other people. So it is in a way like really timely, and the individual pieces themselves a lot would resonate with what we're going through right now, especially the one in the lower left. And I will talk a little bit more about that piece. But because that piece is also inspired by the Exterminating Angel, and that is a movie by surrealist filmmaker Luis Buñuel. And basically it's about a group of people that think that they're trapped at a dinner party and they cannot come out, so they're just trapped with each other. And they start doing outrageous things because they believe they're trapped and there's no escape. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to see it, especially in this very, very interesting moment that we're living in. The exhibition Customizing Language I co-curated with my colleague Idurre Alonso. I like to say that she's my curatorial partner or accomplice. And we worked together at MOLAA a few years ago, and we have tried to keep working together. We submitted this proposal for the first first prize of Emerging Curator at LACE, at Los Angeles Contemporary Exhibitions. And this exhibition is about language, but also about language as resistance. And in the exhibition itself, we tried to present pieces or works that had Spanish language, and then the works didn't have translations in themselves. Like obviously we would translate in the labels, but we wanted to sort of subvert the hierarchy of language, because we always have, because of our context, English first and then Spanish when there's a translation. But we had several local artists and a couple of artists that do not live in the region, but we had video works. So we had Alexandra Apostol and Regina Galindo had video works in the exhibition. And then the book that you see to the top left is by Beatriz Cortez, who's a local artist. The one below with the shields is by Marco Ramirez Serre, an artist from the region of Tijuana, San Diego. And then on the top, you see like sort of like a larger installation view of the exhibition. This project was co-curated with Richard Montoya, and it was about his late father, José Montoya, a very important Chicano artist and poet. And after his passing in 2013, they, apart from his works, because he worked in painting, he also was part of an art collective, and they produced several works together, and also his writing. They found, or not they found, but they had a lot of boxes and boxes of works that he did on paper throughout his career. So most of these works were not dated, and they were in different types of paper, like for example, paper towels, paper napkins, sketchbooks, just like loose pieces of paper. But they were all they had a range of studies that he did for works, also pieces of writing, doodles, sketches, different studies in which that helped him create his characters, because in his work he had like several sort of archetypes such as like La Pachuca, El Pachuco, the suit, and then like later in his life also cholos and different people of our community that were represented in these sketches and even portraits, because we consider that these works were not incomplete. They were complete works. Some of them, as you can see like below, are very beautiful, have color. Some of them were really large. Some of them are little. And they were all telling a story. So in putting together this narrative of all the drawings that he did during his life and during his career, and he himself collected, he kept them because he knew that they were valuable and they were important to him as part of this exercise, as part of being an artist, but also to inform his work. So actually Richard came up with this idea of putting them in trays that emulated grape trays, because José Montoya grew up in the Valley, and he actually has a lot of poetry that has to do with him growing up in the Valley and working in the fields. So we wanted sort of this experience of going through the ropes of trays, and you would look at the different narratives that we created in the trays with these drawings. Then my last project, or my most recent project, was Ser todo ser parte, to be whole is to be part. And this happened during the fall at Los Angeles Contemporary Exhibitions. And I can say a lot of things about this project. It was originally conceived to be a larger exhibition inside the gallery, but because of COVID-19 and the fact that the museum was closed, the space was closed for visitors, we came up with this solution of bringing the works to the storefront area of Lace, which you can see there's windows that are exposed, so passers-by could see it from outside, even though the museum was closed or the space is closed. So these are just some photographies of how you would look at it from the outside, and I wanted to include one from nighttime because I actually feel like it was the viewing experience was actually better during the night, because you could see more because of the lighting, and just really interesting how people engage with the work. And we had brochures. I don't know if you can see them, and I'm not sure if you can see my mouse or my cursor, but we had brochures that were sort of like the short version of the online catalog, which you can see going to Lace's website. The image in red is sort of like the cover of the digital catalog. It was designed by China Monforte, who is a local artist and graphic designer. And so there's a lot that came together. The artists were very flexible, and I will remain forever grateful to them for adjusting to the new sort of format of the exhibition. And in thinking about, like sort of like how it started and how it ended, of the project of customizing language, like I brought a lot of those themes, but even though the works are completely different from most of the works that were included in customizing language, but also like this idea of subverting language, I included the Spanish language first to subvert the hierarchy. In the digital publication, all the Spanish is first, so you have the version in Spanish language and then English language, because to me it was really important to sort of subvert those hierarchies and ask from the viewer that they would be part of this exercise as well. And I need to start wrapping up, but I just wanted to show you, I'm currently working on this project with the Torre Brothers. It's a retrospective to be shown in hopefully fall of this year. We are hoping that the museum can open in fall of 2021, and this exhibition will be one of the ones that open the Cheech Museum. And so, in putting all of this together, I'll go really fast so we have time for questions. I'm really sorry. That I wanted to show you where I come from, sort of like my context, to sort of, I don't know, tease a common thread or like a common theme. I have many interests. I'm interested in performance art and feminist art and the avant-gardes of the 60s and 70s. But in a way, like the projects that I worked on or I've been involved with, I found that they have a common thread. So I just want to tease that a little bit and maybe really fast. And maybe during the questions, we can also come back to some of these images. But the image on top of the Trojan horse, I feel like is one of the works that is most emblematic in my life in general. It was the first time, so that work, as you can see, was placed in the port of entry of San Isidro in Tijuana. So I'm from Tijuana, and this port of entry has thousands and thousands of people crossing every day to go to work, go to school, people living in both sides of the border, and that's like the border life. That was my life. I started going to high school and on the states side, and I would cross the border. While living in Tijuana, so I would cross the border every day to go to school. And so anyways, in 1997, I was in middle school or about to start middle school. I encountered this piece, and it sort of marked me because it was the first time that I had been exposed to art and arts and crafts and all of that, but it was the first time that I felt like I understood something and someone understood me. And so I always come back to this piece because it was so emblematic, and it means a lot also to me because of where I come from. And then Mónica Mayer, I wanted to include her because I wrote my master thesis on her work, and she studied at the Women's Building for a couple of years in the late 70s. So a lot of the work is like the series of virgins that she did, sort of sexualizing them, or they had like different names, like sort of in a humorous way, but also very political. They were inspired by the work that Chicana artists do in incorporating the iconography of La Virgen de Guadalupe. And so she was very inspired by that, and also her work, her feminist work in the Clothesline project that is sort of like, has had many iterations also throughout the years. And I'll wrap up really quickly. Mariana Castillo-Ball, she was an artist that we featured at MOLAA back in 2010. And this is a piece, I'm actually like the person in the middle. There's a really short person in the middle holding the piece. So this is a piece about La Cuatlicue, and it's all hollow parts that make a whole. But the idea behind it is sort of to challenge history and also display. So a lot of themes repeat. So memory, past, present, future, like in a sort of like sci-fi. I mean, not necessarily in this work. Memory, language, and body. These are works by Beatriz Cortez. The work with the fortune teller box. One of them was, or a couple of them were featuring customizing language at Lace. So these are fortune teller boxes that you would click a button, and then you have like a ticket with some text. And one of the projects was made with communities in Central America. So as you see that it has the translation like in Spanish and English, when it was done with those communities, it also had cachiquel, which is one of their dialects, and actually cachiquel was first, and then Spanish, and then English. So I'm also interested in like that subversion of the hierarchy of language. I can talk a lot about her work. I feel like this is like more recent, and there are all artists that are somehow either local or have a relation. Their work has a relation with our pre-Columbian past, but also present issues. And I wanted to sort of end with this slide. I have another slide too, but I think that we can wrap up here. I just want to show the piece below by Damian Flores was a mural that was featured in Ser Todas Es Ser Parte, the last show that I curated at Lace. The one on top that looks sort of like a ghost is like the whitewashed version of America Tropical, the mural that was whitewashed, and that is in Plaza Olvera. And because I feel like everything comes back to America Tropical in a way, and I like this the sort of connections, with like my own background as growing up in Mexico, my relationship with Mexico and the culture, but also a lot of ways in which the artists and the art that I'm interested in, and also myself, contest like different systems, like Mexico as a system, the United States as a system, and how all of that comes together, and also the context of LA, because I've been living here for now 11 or 12 years. So this is sort of like me like putting everything together, coming back to America Tropical. So I think that we can stop here. I'm sorry that it went over time, but we can open it up for questions. I hope that, please feel free to ask away. Thank you so much for your attention, and again for having me here. Right.
Thank you so much, Selena. That was really wonderful. And I don't know if you want to unshare your screen, and
Yes.
I will invite the audience, our Zoom audience, to type any questions that they have in the Q&A portion of the Zoom screen. But the first question comes from Karen Rapp, who you probably know, and she asks, how do you think your curatorial work contributes to contemporary concerns of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the visual arts?
Thank you for that question. I think that it's been really interesting to me, because I feel I have to say that I've been really lucky to have had really great mentors along the way. I've worked under the wing of really great curators and also artists. Ruben Ortiz Torres was one of my first mentors too. He was the one who encouraged me when I was his student, and to get my first internships and start working in the field. And that's actually how I came to realize that I actually liked the producing exhibitions, because I was a studio major actually. I liked this aspect of helping produce an exhibition and curating exhibitions a little bit more than actually producing art myself. But going back to the question, in the mentors that I've had along the way have always had these issues in mind. So they've been always part of my work. Like, for example, working at the San Diego Museum of Art with Betty Sue Hertz. I remember that, like I was her research assistant, and always pushing, we have to have at least equal amounts of female and male artists when working in a collective exhibit or a group show, or and I feel like even customizing language, we had 10 artists, and it was like sort of a coincidence, but I love that coincidence that we had 5 female, 5 male. So I think that there are gestures, but ultimately they count a lot. I think that, going back to like my work at the foundation, which I feel has a lot to do with, supporting like the emerging generations of museum professionals or arts professionals. And, even though I consider myself like I'm still emerging as well, I from the point of privilege that I am working at the Getty and working in these initiatives, and also from my experience working with different people and different institutions, I feel like I also, I don't know, in a way, like being a person of color, also like at a large institution, like this is always present. Inclusion, diversity, I feel like that's always at the forefront of my work and my work ethic. Not sure if that it was a very long answer to the question.
Oh, that's great. One of our students, Jordan White, asks quite a few questions, and I'll try to combine some of these so that we have time for a few more after. How have Southern California institutions of art adjusted during COVID? How is the health of art institutions in Los Angeles, in Southern California now during COVID?
I mean, for all of us that work in different institutions at different in different ways, it's been challenging, especially because it's sort of happening at the same time. Like I feel like the sort of like the museum is in crisis, but not. I feel like not in a bad way. The museum world is in crisis, and then our socio-political, economic world is in crisis, and they're it's both happening at the same time. In the same way that COVID happened at the same time as different different events around civil rights started happening also, especially like this past year, and it felt like the world was ending. So it's been really interesting because I actually feel like this is an opportunity to rethink our institutions, rethink our museums, not only the space itself, like the spaces, because we cannot be physically in these spaces, like what does it mean, but also structurally, like what does it mean, realizing that some of these institutions depend on ticket entries to survive, and because that hasn't happened, because we haven't had people through the door, like what has that meant for the institutions, but also as part of the system, like contesting sort of like the museum, like we see many like accounts or blogs and like social media, like on Instagram, like change the museum, and ones that are like institution specific, like the Guggenheim and MoMA. And I feel like it's a really interesting moment, even though it feels chaotic and scary. I want to take this as an opportunity for us to rethink our institutions. So yeah, it's been really challenging because we cannot work the way that we've been working, but hopefully something changes, and we look at it from a different lens.
And my colleague at LMU, Dr. Melody Rodari, who actually was also a curator, she asks, do you have any advice for recent graduates or students graduating this academic year on how to get their foot in the door during the pandemic? And she also asked, and I think this is maybe a good place for a final question, do you have any advice for students applying for a Getty Morrow Fellowship or museum internships more generally?
So in general, I think that I encourage everyone to just be bold and be brave. Don't be afraid. Ignore imposter syndrome, because right now is a moment, especially as as students, to just knock on everybody's door and like ask questions. And that's sort of like how I don't know how I am here in a way. I I wasn't even a student of Ruben Ortiz Torres, but like I knew he was a professor, and I went to his office, and I was like, "Hello, I'm interested in your work," and I started building a relation with with him. I started taking classes with him as well, so he sort of became my mentors organically, and I feel like that is very important. Like, talk to your professors, talk to them about your interests, your questions, your fears. Create relationships. I feel like mentorship in our field is very important, and because I feel like it is based on expertise, but also generosity, and it goes all ways. It doesn't always have to be like, I feel people that I've mentored, like as my interns, like now are mentoring me, and they're like more advanced in their careers. Like now some of them are studying their PhD, and I always tell them, you're gonna give me a job one day. So it is very important to maintain relationships, and to ask, and the like networking has a negative connotation. I also feel weird about it, but it's more like about building community. Build your community. Your community is your peers, but also people that have the potential of being your colleagues, and take advantage of the fact that now we have this Zoom life, and you can be in touch with artists and different professionals outside of LA, and just sort of like send emails and be like, do you have a moment? Can we have like a 15-minute call? Or people are usually very generous. Don't be discouraged if someone doesn't respond. Like, sometimes emails get buried. Don't be discouraged. Also, don't be discouraged if people say no. It's better to say, like, genuinely, I don't have time, I'm really sorry, and to know that, than like not hear from anyone ever again. Just do it. Go out there and start building your community, like right now, as students. And advice for applying to the Getty Merrill internships: look up the requirements, but it's sort of also the same thing. I feel like the internships are part of this process of creating your or building your community, starting to meet museum professionals and other people that will become your peers and your colleagues. So, and if you have specific questions, again, you can reach out. If you go on the website, also email the general email that is there. It'll find its way to me.
That's great. And that addresses one of our students, Gabrielle Ryder, asked about whether or not you could share your email for students to ask questions. And it sounds like you can just send email inquiries to the general Getty Morrow information email.
Yes, there is an email that is summerinterns@getty.edu. And one of my colleagues in my team receives them, but we're a really small team, so we all see the email, so it'll eventually get to me. But my email address is my first initial S Preciado, my last name, so spreciado@getty.edu. I was looking for the chat option to see if I could type it, but yeah, it's spreciado@getty.edu.
That's great. And oh, I'm sorry. And is there any secret or any sort of general advice for the statement of purpose portion of the Morrow internship application?
I think go personal. Like the personal statement says, sometimes I feel, because of, we're all trying to be very formal, and personal statement is an opportunity to explain or to tell your story that is not reflected in your CV or resume. It's sort of like what I was trying to do here today, that you can have a list of things, and exhibition titles and articles that you've written or edited, and the reality looks very different. And like, maybe what looks important on paper, it's actually like there's something else that is more important to you personally. So always go sort of on the personal side of the statement, and be as genuine as possible. And for the application at the Getty, it has a specific prompt. So I encourage people to look it up and read it, because it has like very specific questions about your interest and commitment to diversity in our institutions, and how that ties in with your personal story as well. Yeah, I encourage people to look at it on the website. But yeah, I feel like the personal aspect is more important. Like, don't try to sort of rewrite the resume on the personal statement or cover letter. Use it as an opportunity to say things that cannot go on the resume, and perhaps explain, for example, a student that may have a gap in like their transcripts of a semester that they didn't go to school, or they dropped out, and in the personal statement maybe they'll explain, oh, I had to take another job, or I had to take care of I don't know, a relative. Like, it's not like justifying, but it's sort of like telling the story of like your context. So I feel like that's really important.
Well, thank you so much for all of your advice and for your presentation this afternoon. And I just want to end by responding to the slide of Danny DeVito wearing the Andy Warhol wig that you included in your PowerPoint. I think that image and the character that he was playing was really poking fun at the stereotype of curators as being elitist and snobby. And I just want to say that your curatorial practice and your work at the Getty couldn't be farther from this stereotype. And yet the art that you're presenting and the work that you're doing is so vital to contemporary art practice. And I just want to thank you again for spending some time with LMU. And I hope that our students take advantage of either reaching out to you or as well as applying to the Getty Morrow internship program. So
Yes,
thank you.
thank you. I appreciate your comment, and I hope that this is a way that I keep working. I always have present who I am and where I come from. I'm very proud of coming from, a working class family, growing up in a household where, uh, two adults didn't go to high school. One adult actually didn't know how to read and write, which was my great grandmother. That was the context I grew up with. And I'm really proud of coming from there. And so I always have it present with everything that I do. When I curate or write something, I always think about, my parents or people that I know, and if they're going to, um, how they're going to receive it. And I feel like in a way, like, I think that goes back to like my point of, it's not always only like the expertise, it's always also like the generosity, and it's generosity like reciprocity too. Like, it goes both ways, being open to receiving, but also like giving back, and being you, uh, yourself, wherever you are. So I hope that my hope is to keep working with this in mind. So I thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our audience as well. Everyone have a good day. Take care.